Good evening. This is Wednesday night and it's Map Show night, and I'm really excited to have you joining with me tonight. And we're going to be talking about taking your stand. And my goodness me, it's time for that to happen. And I think 2023 is one of those years where this is going to be extremely important. So I trust that you are ready for a great show this evening. In a moment, I will be introducing our panel to you, and they will be sharing a little bit of their Map for Life story. I just want to give you some updates on what's happening in Map for Life. And for those of you who have been part of Map for Life for some time, you are familiar with the Map Cafe. The Map Cafe is a small group that meets on a regular basis, and when I say regular basis, it's that regular that it takes place every single week. And we've been engaging in the Map Cafe online now, and one of our oldest Map Cafes, which started back in the year 2006, immediately switched to the online option in I think it was March 2020. So you are familiar with what happened or what took place in March 2020. They immediately switched to online and have been continuing online ever since. And last, in the year 2021, we began to roll out multiple online map clubs. And I'd like to invite you, those of you who are listening to this recording or watching tonight's show, is just to go and visit our website. You can see the word Map Club after our domain. Click on that and join one of the 9 incubator clubs that are available there. We'd love to have you to join us. And I think that's going to be an exciting part of your walk into the future. We would love to walk with you. It's a great place for mentorship, accountability, preparation, and diligence. And we are seeing leaders being born there every single day. I'm going to just introduce one of our panelists this evening to you. His name is Henny, and those of you who've watched the show before have met Henny, but I'm going to ask Henny just to quickly introduce himself tonight. Good evening, Henny. How are you from Roodepoort, is it?
Good evening. Yes, I'm awesome from Roodepoort. Good evening, everybody. Let's cut the introduction short. I joined Map for Life for a second time about 4 or 5 months ago, and I made it part of a lifestyle, and it's unbelievable how it's changed my life. I've got habits that's actually been formed. I am a focused man. I followed the 20-day program. I've got my vision. I've got my mission. I've got my purpose. I know I am significant in what I'm doing right now, and I really want to share it with everybody to say, how do we become significant, each and every one of us, so that we can build this big puzzle called life, and every one of us has got a space in that big puzzle.
Amen. That sounds exciting. Henny, you and I were chatting this morning. We were having a discussion in our Map Cafe. I think it was about 7 o'clock this morning. I hope I'm right. I seem to remember speaking with you this morning, and I've already been sharing some of the good stuff that we discussed in our morning Map Cafe. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of those insights after our speaker this evening. So for those of you watching, Henny and I are going to take a short break while you enjoy the next session. And I'm going to just introduce our speaker briefly, and then we will switch to the talk. So we'll see you right after this.
to stop me singing. I'm getting my groove on. I'm putting my praise on. Woke up this morning saying,
I'm just going to talk about, I just felt really led to talk about this. It's time to take your stand, because I believe that many of us, not all of us, but many of us are sitting in a chair. And we have our past behind us, we have our future in front of us, but we are sitting. And I think it's time for us to stand up. We've been sitting for maybe a while. We've been feeding ourselves for a while. We've been preparing ourselves for a while. We know what we're supposed to be doing deep inside. We know we're supposed to be doing a certain thing, and we're not doing it. We're still sitting. And I believe it's time to take that stand. Some of you may have taken a stand already in different seasons of your life. You've taken a stand, but you've now got quite comfortable and you're actually back sitting down. And I believe it's time for you to take the stand. And it's a time of change, and there's lots of things happening, even in the country and people's, spiritually and all sorts of areas where it seems to be that it really is a place where a lot of people are at, where it's time to just stand up and not to be one of the hundreds and thousands that are sitting down, but it's time to stand up and do what you need to do. One of the big things in this is why don't we stand up? And I'm just going to talk about that briefly. Say, why do we stay seated? The first thing is that it's really comfortable, and if I'm sitting here, it's a lot more comfortable just to sit down and to be relaxed, and to excuse, my past and what's happened behind me, and I'm holding it like a pregnant woman, and I see my things in front of me, but I'm actually quite comfortable just to sit here. If I stand, I make myself obvious. Everybody can see me if I stand. It might take courage. It might take boldness. It's got to take belief in myself that when I stand, I've got something to give. I've got something to present. I've got something to give to society. I've got something to do for my family. I've got to do something. And it's that boldness that we might not have, and that's why we stay seated. And often that's to do with fear. And one of the biggest challenges, I think, why many people don't stand when they should be standing is because of fear. And I'll deal briefly with that fear factor just now. The other things that make us not stand is we lack drive. We haven't got something enough that's pushing us enough to stand. Or the reward to stand is not big enough. So it's like the dog that's sitting on the porch moaning and groaning. I'm sure many of you know that story. And the other dog says to it, "Why are you moaning and groaning?" He says, "No, because I'm sitting on there's a nail. I'm sitting on a nail." So he says, why don't you just get up off the nail?" "Well, it's not that sore yet. It's there, but it's not that sore yet." And I think some of us need a really sharp nail. Some of you sitting here need a really sharp nail and maybe you need to, get up. And not be like the dog that just moans and excuses and groans the whole time. I'm talking because
I just want to stop for a moment there just to apologize for the small breaks that we are having in the picture. I'm going to give it another go because I see there's some delay in our internet connection this evening. I even see my picture is stuttering along. I'm trusting that it'll resolve itself shortly. Let's give the talk another opportunity and maybe it will work through.
I'm not going to talk at length, but I'm talking very briefly about things because I'm not going to go into what you know, because I think in many people that I counsel and coach that a lot of people deep down, you know what you need to be doing. That you know, sometimes it can be vague and you maybe need to seek counsel, but even whether it's in business or whether it's in your family or wherever it's at, there are some things that you know you need to be doing. You know that deep inside, and if you don't, start questioning yourself and write it down. You know what you need to be doing, and it's time to act on that. Maybe you need to link, as I said with the nail, more pain to what you need to do. Maybe you need to be more bold about it, and that comes into the whole fear thing. And I just want to say that when you're sitting here and you're feeling fearful and you don't want to stand because you've got this fear, fear is actually not a reality. Fear is over there. It's not here. It's an illusion of what could happen, what might happen, and it's not where I am. So it's not the reality. But we try and take the future and bring it to where I'm sitting and make it the reality. And you need to train your mind that it's not a reality. It's a fog. It's a mist. It's all these preconceived ideas I've put out there to stop me from standing. And it's time that I actually deal with those things and see them for what they are and stand, because they're not here. They're over there. And even when they're over there, they're not real, because they're actually just things that I've put in my mind. And often when we do stand, those things suddenly you can't see them anymore. The fog's lifted. They're not actually there in the first place. And so to deal with that thing that we know we need to do, we need to stir up that desire in us, that whatever it is that we need to do, whether it's a dream, whether it's a vision we have for our lives, for our family, for whatever work thing we need to be doing, whatever it is, even if it's sports or whatever it is to stir it up. You've got to feed it. And all those things give you motivation to actually get going. And one of the big things is need to speak it. And if you're in an environment where speaking it you might get shot down, maybe you shouldn't be speaking it to those people. You know, if for a while you need to speak it just to yourself, that's okay. Until you get that courage and that boldness that you then can speak it in company of other people. And if they try and knock you down, you then have the courage to be able to stand your ground, because you have already programmed almost your mind. You have fed your mind with the positive things and haven't doubted yourself. So it's very important to say things like, my best days are ahead of me. In the mornings when you wake up, I'm getting stronger and stronger every day. I'm getting more healthy every day. I'm getting younger every day. It's good to say these things to yourself, say these positive affirmations to yourself. Just jot down one or two. You don't have to jot down a whole stream of things. But to say them in the morning, to stand up and to say them, it gives you that boost that many of us need. And the reason why I'm saying this, it's one of the big things, like fear is the big thing that keeps you down, keeps you seated. It's to do with your mind. You have to sort out what's going on in your mind. You have to make sure that the movie that's being played in your mind is under your control, not under somebody else's control. I think Jenny was talking about earlier, we were talking about who's writing in your book, who's writing your story. You need to be writing your story, not somebody else. And you need to be controlling what's written in your book. You need to be controlling what's going on in your mind. You need to take that remote control and choose the right channel, and not allow all those other channels to be whirring around in your mind that take you off what you're supposed to be doing. So often we let all sorts of stuff go on in our mind, and we're not taking control of what we're actually allowing to go on in the mind. And whatever goes on in the mind ends up producing what you're acting. So you're staying seated because you now have got so full of fears that you haven't stood up because you've allowed all this stuff all these different channels to go on in your mind. So you need to control your remote control to the TV of your mind, and just discipline that. It's very, very important. I can't emphasize that enough. In health issues, in financial issues, you need to sort out what you allow in your mind. It's very detrimental when you allow wrong things to take a seed and to take root in your mind. When you're seated, you're going nowhere. You're not doing much when you're seated. So you've got to get up. You've got to believe in yourself. And another big thing is that which really occurred to me is it's not always about you. You're seated here and you're comfortable and you think, oh, I'm comfortable, or I've got the fears, or whatever the case is why you're still seated. But you don't realize that you need to stand because other people are waiting for you to stand. Because if you're seated, you're not having an effect. If you stand, you're having an impact on other people. You have a responsibility to take that stand. You have a responsibility to act out, to take action on what you know you should be doing. If nothing else, for other people, whether it's your family, whether it's at work, whether it's the bigger community, whatever it is, you have a responsibility.
What an exciting evening, and I trust that that you've been watching along with me and realizing that maybe if your experience was anything like mine, there were a few technical challenges this evening, and so we will make sure we learn from that and move forward. And somebody was talking with me the other day and they said, I can't quite get my video perfect. And I said, something, the best video is the one that is done, not the one that is undone and trying to be perfected. And so tonight I am excited to have a great panel with me, Henny and Rion, two of our leaders that are going to be taking Map for Life not just into their territory, but from our nation to the four corners of Africa, if one could say the four corners of Africa, and certainly beyond the oceans around the world. And I'm happy to have Rion and Henny join me this evening. And I'm going to bring Rion on first because Henny's had the opportunity to introduce himself. So Rion, good evening to you.
Good evening, out of the darkness into the light.
Great to have you. And I think we are enjoying a time in Africa that makes us appreciate the value that we have of being powered from within. Imagine if God created us where we needed to be plugged in all the time. This would be a challenge, wouldn't it?
Yes, no, it would.
So Rion, just very quickly for those people who are watching, I'd like you just to quickly introduce yourself, how you got to hear about Map for Life, and just a word of encouragement to those watching.
Yeah, no, thank you, Glenn. I think I always tell people, I had the privilege of finding my purpose actually 25 years ago, but I walked around quite a few years with those purpose, not really knowing what to do with it. And I think my purpose, stems from the Bible, from Romans 8, verse 37. It says we are more than victorious through Christ Jesus that gives us a strength. So I realized, when people find their purpose, then they actually start living purposefully and actually start living victory. Because when you know why you were made and how you were put together like you were put together, then it just brings that sense of okay, I know what I'm doing. And, a well-trained soldier are the ones that's effective. And I think that's what I realized, but I didn't really have a way to live purposefully. And in last year, I got introduced to the methodology of MAP, which was really great because, it brought it together. Now that I understand my purpose, I could bring this tool, this Map for Life tool, to start actually planning my days and my life, and I can start going forward, and plan to live purposefully and plan how to help other people to live purposefully. I think, the Map for Life for me was a very, it's consuming. It's not easy. It's a difficult thing, but it's not difficult to understand. I think it's actually very much straightforward. And for me, it was really a revelation. And now I can use Map for Life on a daily basis. And I've dusted it off, and I've got my map for 2023. And I'm going on, and I'm I'm establishing my business. I've got a map for my business. So it's just a very practical tool. And I think that was what was short in my life. I understood where I needed to go, but I didn't know how to get there. And that's what I want to take to the people. That's what I want to, because I think what I learned, I was working in a mine for many years, at the senior mining level or management level. And I worked with corporates and corporate leaders. And I think there's a lot of people who's just has this meaningless, directionless existence. And I want to go and tell these people that are highly talented, all of them, not only them. There are so many people walking around that's disillusioned. And by just finding out your purpose and starting to live your purpose will make a huge difference. It will take the focus from myself, and it will put my focus outside. This morning I was chatting to a guy. He said he knows a guy that's living in a rural area that's got the ability to plan little chicken farms. There's little houses that they build, how many chickens to put in, how long. He's got this amazing talent. And these are the people we must help that wants to make a difference in our community, in our world today. And so I'm very excited to go forward and really start helping the people, that God can use me as a tool, as a catalyst, as they say, not to be part of the action, but to get people to actually start thinking for themselves, taking responsibility for their purpose. And that excites me a lot. And I'm staying in Leidenburg, in the Platteland, in the countryside.
Okay, we'll just put that back on the screen there so people can see. This is in not in Europe, if anybody's watching. This is in South Africa, and but what's exciting is the light has begun to shine in Leidenburg, and we're going to be watching that light spread from Leidenburg to the rest of the province, to the rest of the country, and north. And who knows? Maybe Leidenburg will have the first person in Antarctica. Or Marion Island or something. So, Henny, I'm going to bring you in as well, and we're going to sit right next to each other this evening. So there we are. I trust that you have enjoyed this evening session. You were able to listen to the talk before the session started, and I'd like you just to maybe share some of your insights from this evening.
I was thinking up something called BM and IM. We're all familiar with BC and AC. So BM for me, based on the talk, is, I think it ties in a lot with what Anne was saying. I was sitting down, success meant focusing on myself. And I think the negative imagination that you can have is called fear as well. We tend to be able to think up all the scenarios why things can't work, which is actually still imagination, just used in a negative way. And we could think up and I could think up all these things why I couldn't start my business, why I couldn't do this, and why I couldn't do that. And like I said, about 4 or 5 months ago, things changed for me. Now I'm in IM, which means in Map for Life. It's not after, because it's not an after. And the difference for me is, I'm standing up, like Anne said. You can't sit down. You're standing up because you need to be significant. You need to move around to talk to people. And the imagination is still there in the form of a vision board. I've got something on a vision board that I can see. So all the positive dreams, all the positive focus that I want to see is there. So my imagination is not gone. It's just now focused, and it makes it more positive. And believe it or not, then there is no place for fear, because fear is just you not converting a negative dream into a positive dream. And as soon as you start doing that, it becomes crystal clear. And once you're focused, you start becoming, you start getting to a place where things can't move you in the wrong direction anymore. You just see things as lessons being learned, making you a stronger person, and you continue. So I really enjoyed the talk. Very practical what Anne spoke about. Yeah.
Before map, in map. I like that. You've just coined a new phrase, and I think we're going to be using that going forward. So, you're making contribution after contribution after contribution, and I can see everybody who's part of Map for Life is giving their little bit, and I get excited by that, because Map for Life is not a one-man thing. Map for Life is something that it's a living organism. Every single person who connects with MAP starts their own journey. They start beginning to connect with their purpose, Rion, and pursue it with passion. And that purpose is different for everyone, yet together it kind of works as one body, in a sense. Your take on what stood out for you on this evening's talk?
Yeah, I think I must agree with Henny in terms of the standing up. If you just sit down and you just decide to be part of the crowd, that is all you will be. But I mean, God didn't create us to be a crowd. The guys wanted to crowd together at the Tower of Babel, and then God came and confused their language, and he spread them all out, because he was chasing them and say, go and fill the earth. So I don't think God is always want us to crowd together. You need to stand up because you have been unique, and I like that a lot. And I must say, 2 Timothy 1 verse 7 says that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of strength and self-control, love, self-control and strength. I'm putting in the wrong order now, but in any case, the big thing is I always need to tell myself, and where I'm sitting now in my life, as I say, I'm starting my own business. I left my job of 19 years, almost a year ago now, and the doubt wants to come. Every now and again, when you sit too long with yourself, then the doubt wants to come. But I think the important thing is to stand up, be counted. As we learn in Map for Life, what are the things that we can control and what are the things we can't? Let us stop spending time on the things we cannot control, and let's start spending time on the things we can control. But I always tell myself, and it's the truth that Anne said, what? Fear is actually nothing. It's like Henny also said now, it is just things that we're thinking up. And I chatted to people in the church the other day. I said to them, if you spend the amount of time you are spending on telling yourself why you cannot do something and thinking all the excuses why you cannot do something, if you take that energy and you work it into focusing on what God actually wants you to do and what you can do and the purpose that you have, you will be amazed at the progress that you make and the positive momentum you make. I like what Maxwell said. I've got this Maxwell diary, and for February, they said, focus your energy. People try to do something with time, but time is set. You cannot do anything about time. You've got 60 seconds in a minute. The only way you can increase your efforts is not by trying to play around with the time. It's by focusing on your energy. How much energy are you putting into what you're doing right now? That's where you can make a difference, and that's what you control. The amount of time has been set, you can do absolutely nothing about it. But your effort and your focus on your energy, that's what you can control. And for me, there's a message in there for me in February. I'm definitely going to focus my energy to make sure I come to the party in the way that God wants me to come to the party.
The picture that I had in mind when you were talking about focus is the word unleash. Sort of let yourself go and launch yourself into the future. Like a bow, and when somebody shoots an arrow, they pull that string back, and when they release it, that arrow goes directly to the target that it was what it was intended to go to. And I think when you were talking about focus, I was just having that kind of image, this releasing from the bow and shooting out to that target. And as you were saying that a lot of people are going around without any direction, just drifting through life. Henny, there were quite a lot of things that Anne was talking about, and of course the message was take your stand. And I was just wondering, I remembered assembly at school every Wednesday morning. When I was in high school, we had to sit in the hall, and anybody who moved would be spotted because the teachers were sitting on the platform or on the stage, and it would be so easy to see those who weren't sitting and listening intently to whatever was being said, and even more so if somebody stood up. So making a stand or standing up does give people maybe a sense of fear, or maybe they feel intimidated or something of that nature. What is your remedy for that? How do I overcome this fear of standing up? How do I overcome this fear of not blending in, if that makes sense?
I think the biggest challenge for people around that is the not believing that I'm unique and that I'm special the way that I am. A lot of people are very concerned about what other people think of them, of what it means to do something. I cannot do that. What will the people think of me? If I do, what are the people going to say? I think if you get past that, and I was fortunate enough to drop that a long time ago, even since school days, to say, well, if I'm the only one different, it makes me super unique, so I will be different than anything. I think adding to that a purpose of where you're going and wanting to be significant, I think that takes away all fear. That makes it a lot easier to say, you know what, I disagree with what's happening here right now. I'm taking a stand. And I'm prepared to take what's coming my way as well. So I think for me that it was the combination. And the difficult part, I think, is really the part where you get to the point where you trust yourself to be special and unique just the way you are. To say, I am going to do what I'm going to do. Other people can say whatever they want to say. That doesn't make a difference in my life. My purpose is where I'm going. I don't need the other people. If I don't need them, then let them say what they want to say. It's not affecting where I'm going. I obviously want to convert them, and I obviously want to work with them so that they can see their purpose. Sometimes their purpose could be similar to mine. We could be sharing a purpose, and they could add value, but I'm not going to be held back by people thinking differently. So that's my advice. Be yourself, stand up for yourself, but know where you're going, because without the knowing where you're going, it's going to affect you.
I was just thinking back on my school. Can you even call it a career?
No.
My school days. I mean, how could anybody even think that school is a career? Because I mean, people spend 12 years of their life in there to get to the end and still don't know what on earth they should be doing. I mean, how can that be called education? Anyway. I remember when I was in primary school, if somebody asked a question, my hand was up, me, kind of ready to answer. And there was almost a fight in the class as to who was going to get an opportunity to share their little sixpence. And when I got to high school, it changed completely. All of a sudden, when somebody asked a question, everyone was trying to hide under the desk. Don't ask me. And I wonder, what is it that happens? What is it that causes a person who is so eager at the age of 12 to stand out to want to, at the age of 13, blend in? Rion, have you got any ideas?
You know, when you talk about your PMS, your wrong PMS, Glenn, you talk about the peer pressure, but I think, you know, we are also guilty. You know, I know it was actually funny when we grew up, you know, in a real good conservative Afrikaans house. So my mom was always, when we went somewhere, like even when we go to church on a Sunday morning, then she would say, you know what, you make sure that your room is very neat, because if something happens to us, I don't want the people to think that there's pigs staying in this house. You know, so she was so concerned about what the other people are thinking. And, you know, that is tongue in cheek, but I think that's the way that you are brought up, you know, because it's always about, and he said it nicely, is what's everybody else thinking? You must always be wary of what are the neighbors saying, what is the teacher saying, what are my friends saying, what are my folks saying. You know, we always worried about the rest. And rather than just thinking about what God is thinking about us. And I think the other thing is what I sometimes hear from people when you were saying now, some people always want to give the answer, but are we really listening to people's questions? Are we listening to them to answer? So we just listening to them. When they stop, we already got the answer. We're going to give it to them, or we're actually listening to understand what these people are looking for. And I think, you know, especially when you're youngsters, you know, there's a stage where people stop listening to you. People don't. What I like about the youngsters of today, I mean, I've got my 2 students in the house, and then I've got my Laatlamiki that's now 10 years old. But what I like about them is they don't like masks. If you are not real, if you try to be something else, you know, standing in church or standing with a family or standing at the friends and something else at home, they call you out and say, hey. I mean, that small one of mine, you know, she can quickly call me out and say, no. What you are saying now, Dad, and what you said to me last night, it's 2 different things. What's the right one now? And I think we need to train our kids and ourselves to be real to ourselves, because if we're not real, it means we are dancing to someone's tune. And the moment we start dancing to someone else's tunes, then we want to blend in. We just want to be part of the crowd. But in actual fact, we are all unhappy when we are part of the crowd. Because then we normally say ourselves, but no one sees me. But why don't they see? It's because you are hiding away in the crowd. So there is this desire in our hearts to be seen, because we've been made unique and we need to be seen. But yet we allow the outside world just, you know, to come and pressurize us into the mold they want to. But then I want to say something else when we're talking about the focus and the arrow. You know, when you do mountain biking, I'm not a mountain biker, I'm a trail runner, but when you do mountain biking, they say what you should do when you go down a steep hill is you must look inside the road that you want to drive in. Because the moment you start looking at the obstacles, that's what you're going into. Because you drive the bicycle or you cycle where you are watching. So if you are watching the tree you don't want to bump in, guess what? You're going to bump into that tree. But if you look into the road that you actually want to travel, then your body follows your eyes and you actually go through all the obstacles and the tough ones until you start looking at the obstacles that you don't want to bump into, and then you bump into it. And I think it's the same thing in life. If we focus on our purpose, then we miss all these bumps around us, like you said on your target. But the moment we start looking around at all the things that can bother us, then they start bothering us.
Well, I now understand why you're so sharp all the time, because you got children there that are keeping you on your toes and making sure that you stay on the straight and narrow. Don't be ambiguous, Dad. Keep to the mission. I was working on listening to you because my job is to ask the next question. But when you started talking about that, I said, well, hang on, I better start listening to what Rian is saying and stop trying to read stop reading. The word try doesn't exist in Map for Life, correct? And so, you know, I must prevent myself from being distracted by the comments, although I need to look at them. So I want to say it's great to have Rose Peters joining us, and Peter James from Tanzania, and Octavia. Lovely to have you guys joining and sharing your posts online. We talked about, in fact, this week, we've been talking about the comfort zone. And Anne was touching on this idea of the comfort zone as well. Henny, what is your take on this comfort zone trap that we find ourselves in?
I think simply put, the comfort zone is where you find yourself when you are directionless. I think a comfort zone is just a space where I can sit, like Rian mentioned, the crowd. The crowd for me is a comfort zone. It's a place where I can just blend in. Nobody sees me, and I don't have to be responsible, accountable, all those wonderful things. If I've got a purpose, if I've got a vision of where I'm going, I don't have a comfort zone. I'm going to be challenging myself every day with everything that I do. I get to the place where I replace my why is it happening to me with a what is it trying to teach me kind of thing. So I don't think a focused person necessarily will have a comfort zone. I think that is something for BM. In IM, there is no comfort zone.
I'm perfect.
Yes.
I like that. As we talking this evening, there was that quote in this week's gem, and maybe I can just repeat it, because it is something that I think many people can relate to. And interestingly, we talked about the dog on the bed of nails this morning, didn't we, Annie?
Yes.
Or at least I remember talking about this at some point, and just interesting that it comes up in tonight's talk as well. When I wrote the quote that the comfort zone is that place where people who simply exist live. Beyond the comfort zone is the place where people who really live exist. So we have been conditioned, in a sense, trained to live within the comfort zone. And this is, it's fascinating to just think about this for a moment, because all of us responded exactly the way the world wanted us to respond 3 years ago, based on a lifelong teaching to remain in the comfort zone. When we were young children, you placed on I remember we did it with our children. You put them on a blanket, and the first thing they did was crawl off. They didn't play with the toys that you placed there. You'd put them back on the blanket, and they'd crawl off in the other direction. Eventually, you buy a playpen, and you put boundaries around there and say, now you will stay inside. And when they get bigger, they actually climb out. I mean, they just don't want to stay inside there. They want to explore. I mean, I put my daughter into a room, and she went to every door. She was looking for the one that would give her the exit. She wasn't interested in the things inside the cupboard. She wanted to get out of that room. And I think we have this natural inner drive. It's like a pioneering spirit. It's like we want to explore. It's almost our mandate to get out there. And yet we are conditioned and punished if we step out the comfort zone. And then, of course, when the media pops on a message that says something like this, you might not recognize these words, but when the media says "stay safe," what happens? They awaken the little child that was inside of you, that was conditioned to remain inside or on the blanket. They awaken that conditioning that's in you, and immediately a grown adult, maybe somebody who's even retired, in fact, more so, the people who have retired, they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever, they're in fear. And this comfort zone is something we were born to step out of, not to stay in. Rian, I don't know how excited you are about remaining inside the comfort zone, or whether
my wife loves the comfort zone, and I like it outside. But you know what, the thing about the comfort zone, and we don't want to say it. I mean, it's a nice thing to say. Live outside the comfort zone. but the fact is, it's very uncomfortable outside the comfort zone. I mean, I'm sitting in a situation now where I really start feeling the effects of being uncomfortable, you know. And I said to my wife this week, I said, you know what, God needs to start moving because doubt is starting to creep into the mind. But that's the fact about the comfort zone, you know. It's a nice thing to say, you know, like nowadays the people say you need to have a purpose. There's a few things that become buzzwords, you know, but you need to realize that it's very uncomfortable outside of the comfort zone. But no progress will happen unless we get outside the comfort zone. I mean, it's like an athlete, you know. Sometimes you get this resistance bands, or you put the tires behind you and you run with the tires, or you go and run up, do a hill workout. The reason you do these things is to become better. And the only place you can become better is if you push yourself outside of the comfort zone. But you need to realize, and I think that's what Henny also said, is make peace with it, that you will be very uncomfortable outside the comfort zone. You'll get there's places like when you run out on the top of the hill, you enjoy it, but then you get back down and you start running back up again. So you need to get used to be uncomfortable, and uncomfortable is not nice. So it is not a carrot we're putting in front of you to say, you know, get out of the comfort zone. It's very nice. You're going to enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy it. It's going to be like a tough, but guess what? You're going to be in your purpose. Go for it.
You know what I'm thinking of now, Henny. I know you're gonna share with us the puzzle story a little bit before we end this evening, because I think that is quite fascinating. You know, the beyond the comfort zone is so simple. It's like when I'm talking to two people that live inland. I come from the coast, you know. I live by the beach. You know what the sea, the ocean looks like, those big waves that come rolling in. And what's amazing is that everybody, without exception, walks up to that water. They know before they get there that it's going to feel cold, yet you see them take their little toe and they dip it in the water. I don't know if you've ever observed that. I mean, you see it there. They know the water's going to be cold, and they pull their foot out the water as if it's had some kind of shock, and then they stand there. And some people actually turn and go back and lie down on the sand and don't get into the water. But those people who have done it before, I mean, they know what to expect. They know it's going to be cold. And you'll see them running into the water, and they'll just go straight in, dive under, and boy, they know within 1 minute they're going to be enjoying it. And I think beyond the comfort zone is a little bit like that. You know, you just got to get your feet wet. You got to get cold. You got to go through that, but know that once you've gone beyond, you're going to begin to do things that make a purposeful difference, and that's going to bring to you the fulfillment you desperately want that you cannot get inside the comfort zone. And while you were talking about this comfort zone, you know what? I was thinking about the poor seed. You know, the seed sits up there on the tree in a nice pod. It's all cocooned inside. It's comfortable. It's got its other brothers and sisters next to it. And it's hanging out there, you know, just kind of hanging out. And all of a sudden, this big seed pod decides to burst open. And in a sense, all hell breaks loose, and the seed goes flying into the air, and it falls and crashes on the ground. And then eventually it starts getting buried by the soil, and suddenly it experiences something completely different. It's all on its own. It's in a dark place. It gets wet. It's under pressure. It can't see anything. It begins to break apart. But then it reveals the tree that's hiding inside. And I think maybe the comfort zone can do that for us. It enables us to germinate. It enables us to become who we were born to be. It brings out something in us that we never knew we had. And that, for me, is the power of stepping beyond the comfort zone. But we've been conditioned to stay inside, so we need to uncondition ourselves and make a habit of, when somebody asks for a volunteer, put up your hand. When you go into church, instead of sitting at the back where no one can see you, walk to the front. You know, do things that are outside of your comfort zone. When you're standing in a lift, turn and face the people and say, "Hi, my name is," they might panic, they might jump out the next floor, but just start taking those small steps of boldness. Henny, you shared something so powerful with us this morning. I just see Primrose saying there's no growth in the comfort zone. Lovely. I like that. Petra from Tanzania says no change, creativity, innovation in the comfort zone. I mean, these guys, you can see they are IMs. Hey, Henny? They're not BMs. They're not before that. These guys are IMs. So welcome. Great to have Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and other places joining us tonight. You shared something that is fascinating to me this morning, and I don't know whether it was because you wanted to get your father out of your hair or whether you really love your father. But either way, the story was fascinating. So share a little bit with us this evening.
So my father retired about 15 years ago, and I knew if I wanted my dad to calm down, if he had a very stressful day, he would sit and build puzzles, the normal puzzles that we know, but he loved challenges like 2,000-3,000 piece puzzles. He wasn't keen on the smaller ones. So about 10 years ago, I decided to spoil my dad on his birthday, and I bought him a puzzle of 18,654 pieces. So I imported this puzzle from America, and I thought, well,
I can see Rian. sorry, Henny. I got to write this down now. How many pieces was it? I've got to put that on the screen. 18,654.
All righty. To give you an idea, it is the normal size of the puzzle pieces, but the fully completed puzzle is about 3.2 meters by 2.1 meters tall. So just to give you an idea. So yes, I did give it to my dad, and yeah, it didn't take him a week to build the puzzle. It took a little bit longer than that. The sad part, however, was he finished the whole puzzle, but there was one puzzle piece missing. There's one piece missing. So he put it in a frame, which was a big mission as well. I had to find the right people that could actually do it for him. But the funny thing is, it is such a beautiful puzzle. But if I walk to that puzzle, what is the thing that you focus on? The missing puzzle piece. If I can find that missing puzzle piece. And I thought, maybe that's a lesson to me as well. Also talking IM now. Am I focusing on the one piece of a puzzle that's missing? And I'm not seeing 18,653 pieces that's actually there. And I think that is the difference in being in the comfort zone and not in the comfort zone. When I'm in a comfort zone, I focus on the small things. I focus on the one missing puzzle piece and not on the 18,653 pieces that are there. And I think that is the message that I want to actually share with you tonight, is to say, to get out of your comfort zone, there are tools. Map for Life was my tool that got me a purpose, that got me focused on 18,000 pieces, as opposed to the one piece to say, well, what if I can't be the piece that will fit in the puzzle? Get your focus right. See everything that is out there, because with focus, you start seeing those things and forget about the one missing piece.
Henny, you just, for me, that was the key, because I could see, Rian can identify. I don't think anybody can comprehend the puzzle that's 18,654 pieces. I mean, if there's one piece missing there, you can just imagine getting to the end of that piece. But I think the illustration is when we are sitting in the crowd, or as a spectator watching the guys playing the sport on the field, we see all the little mistakes, or we look at the government and we see the things that aren't being done. The fact that you can see the missing piece is important, because maybe you are that missing piece. Maybe what you see missing is actually your big moment to stand in the gap and actually play your part. And I think we're seeing that in our country right now. There are so many people that are pointing out the missing puzzle pieces, but yet, because they see the missing puzzle piece, means that they could actually be that missing piece. And for me, that was so powerful. It just changes my whole perspective on the notion or the desire to complain about other things, and rather say, hang on, instead of before I complain about something, what can I do about it? Rian, I could see you identifying with what Henny was sharing, and then after that, I'm just going to ask each of you to share something short. Sammy, great to have you from Zambia sharing with us this evening, and Quinton from Cape Town, welcome. Good to have you join us.
Yeah, no, my kids, my wife and my kids, they like the puzzles as well, so I could identify. But I was thinking exactly the same thing than you. Is when you see that one missing piece, then you should think about it. You are that unique piece, and while you are sitting within the crowd, you are not on the board, and you are that missing piece. So everybody can see something is missing, and it's you. So you must. I was also thinking like you. The one hand is let's focus on the bigger picture, but the other hand, make sure that you are that you are where you're supposed to be. Otherwise, everybody will miss that one piece, and that one piece names will be Rian.
You know what Quinton says from Cape Town? He says this. He says the comfort zone is made for softies. I like that. Quinton, that's the way, man. We need to tell people out there to toughen up and let's step out that comfort zone. Let's blaze a trail. Get that panga. Well, I don't know if that's the right word, but get the battle axe, the panga, whatever. Let's start chopping a pathway into the unknown and show people that it's not that scary. Henny, just a maybe closing remark from you. If anybody's in the would like to post on YouTube or Facebook, please do so. Before we close the show, it'll be nice to include your comments as well. So what is your final kind of message for us tonight or take home?
I think once again, I'm going to keep it short. I used it this morning as well. Don't let your ice cream melt while counting somebody else's sprinkles.
There's 1,001 of them, isn't there?
Yes.
Yes, I like that. Rian, a last word from your side.
Yeah, I think what. Let's stop being spectators. Like you said here towards the end, if you are the one that can see all the mistakes, it means you are sitting idly on the pavilions. You have been called to be on the field. Let's stop being spectators and let's start getting onto the field and start doing the things. There's a time now. There's really a time now that if we get into our purpose, we can make a big difference. And the world need people to stand up in their purpose and be counted. So forget about the fears. Get up and just take it one step at a time. The journey of 1,000 miles start with one step. Let's get that first step tonight.
Hey, listen to that. The seed for 1,000 forests lies in a single acorn. I was this is a session and we always want to go on, but I know that Henny's we're going to be losing him shortly. John Stanker said something interesting to me some time ago. He said that if failure is an opportunity to learn and life is about learning, then shouldn't our objective be to fail as often as possible? And that was something that I just wanted to close off with this evening, to say let's not be afraid of failure. You're gonna die. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be put in a box, you're going to be put underground, you're going to be thrown in an oven. I don't know what you've chosen, but somehow it comes to an end. I mean, and until then, let's live life. Let's be the people that aren't existing, but the people that are living. And the way to do that is to stand up and be the puzzle piece that you were born to be. The world is waiting for you to show up. Don't stay hidden. And for me, just to remind every single person this evening, because we've got a great team that is joining us this evening, and just to remind you, with all sincerity, this is what I believe. I believe Rian, Henny, Quinton, Primrose, Sammy, Octavia, I'm just thinking of Petro or Peter, as we would call him, and Rose and so on. I just want to say to you that you were born for a purpose that the world cannot do without. We need you to show up. We need you to BIMs, fully and completely, because you have a mandate that needs to be fulfilled. And we are excited about that. We are so happy that you joined us on the show this evening. And from all three of us, it's a wonderful good night to you. And may today be a really important day. And Henny, we see you just hanging in there by the skin of your teeth. So good night, everyone. Great to have you join us. And let's end off with a short story about Map for Life.
The key to a meaningful and successful life is knowing where you are, knowing where you want to be, and how to get there. We all need a map for our lives. Map for Life empowers people from across the world to pursue their God-given purpose with passion and perseverance for life. Map for Life is a personal development program and network that empowers people to realize and develop their unique God-given purpose by means of its structured methodology and interactive learning experiences. We want to help you achieve balance, find direction, reach your goals, and discover your purpose. Our offering consists of unique products, services, programs, and networks. Our publications guide you through the Map for Life methodology. Basic, standard, advanced, and mastery workshops are designed to equip you to identify, reach, and realize your purpose. Our online one-on-one and group coaching programs exist within an accountability framework, fully embedding the Map for Life methodology. Map for Life creates a dynamic environment where purpose-driven individuals can plug into a global community and experience functional networks designed to share with, learn from, and inspire one another. Conceived by McQuirk in 1978, the Master Action Plan was finally developed and published in 1999. By 2006, Map for Life as an organization was fully trademarked and institutionalized. Our long-term vision was already established as early as 2008, with the global launch event planned for 2020. Next, we will be expanding into 200 countries across 20 languages. There are many success stories that show the real-world effectiveness of Map for Life, including those of Cape Epic rider Neil Faree and more recently, Academy Award winner Lupita Nyong'o. Our vision for the future is to be a positive global influence and reach 200 countries across the globe to empower people to use Map for Life, to enable them to achieve balance and purpose, and to become a positive force in the community, country, and globally. By touching lives and transforming people, we will not only enable individuals to identify and pursue their purpose in life, but also bring glory to God by helping them to develop an intimate relationship with their Creator. Partner with us and play an integral role in mapping the world through purpose.